Hi everybody, FPL Witty here, back for another of my regular FPL videos. Hope you're well. I'm recording this in the backdrop of calm waters of Pugneys Country Park in Wakefield, West Yorkshire, after the calm that follows the busy game week 27 that's just finished. So I'm recording this on Thursday morning, on the back of game week 27, which finished on Wednesday night. So quite an eventful one as always, lots to talk about. So what we'll do the usual, we'll try and cram everything into 15 minutes. We'll have a look back at what's gone on, we'll have a look forward, have a look at some of the big talking points, because we've got a lot to think about now over the next couple of weeks, with more blank game weeks and double game weeks. So let's crack on. So certainly lots to talk about. So I think it was probably one of the most eventful game weeks I can remember, and a lot of the stuff really was not necessarily going on the pitch really this week. It was a strange one really. So I'll touch on my game week a little bit later, but yeah, so we just had a game week 27. It's a double game week for 4 teams. So everybody was piling in, particularly on Brentford and Brighton players this week. There's a lot of reaction to those who wildcarded, saying, you know, what the hell are we doing, bringing 6 Brighton and Brentford players in on a wild card. So in the end, that did come good for those who followed that tactic after a very good Wednesday. That came good, so we'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, we had loads to talk about. We had Mo Salah skying a penalty high and wide. Very unlike Mo. It was nowhere near the goals, was it, that one? And we had the weather watch really, didn't we? We had a lot of adverse weather, particularly in my area near Leeds. All the focus on that Leeds-Brighton game, of course. That's why the big focus was on the weather. But it wasn't really scaremongering. There was quite a bit of snow actually in the 24 hours around the areas of Leeds leading up to the game. I was certainly digging my car out, so it did fortunately disappear ahead of in the 24 hours before the game, which was good. So we were all on Google Weather Watch. We had a lot of fuss about Solly March, didn't we? Marchgate. So he was accredited with a goal, of course, against Leeds on Saturday, and then ultimately it was changed to an own goal, and then eventually, a couple of days later, he has now been awarded the goal from a Premier League point of view, but under FPL rules, it's too late to award him the points, because it has to be done within 1 hour of the last match on that day. So bit of a revolt on Twitter this week from March owners, very aggrieved. A few lawsuits being filed I think this week, but it is what it is. I'm a March owner, so it's no different really to having a red card rescinded or other things that can happen afterwards, is it really? So just one of those things, but a bit of justice was served, of course, with March getting a goal on Wednesday in his second game. But yeah, absolutely loads going on. But on the pitch we had the title race hotting up. We had Manchester City leaving it quite late before Erling Haaland scored from the spot to win at Palace, and Palace have not now scored for 4 games. So if you want the team to target in terms of your defenders, you certainly want to be taking on Palace attackers. What Erling Haaland did, of course, on Wednesday, or was it Tuesday? He scored 5 goals, didn't he, in the Champions League, and a lot of people are actually contemplating selling Haaland this week for reasons that we'll go on to later, because he's not playing this week. But certainly put the skids up a few people, didn't it, who after his 5 goals. So that's certainly given us plenty to think about. The guy's an absolute machine, isn't he? But yeah, City won. Arsenal were very, very comfortable. They beat Fulham 3-0. 3 first half goals, and all the popular Arsenal players came good. Martinelli, Odegaard, all the defenders. was a 14-pointer from Gabriel. Saka blanked, of course. He was probably the exception. And the big talking point from that game, from an FPL point of view, is that certainly people who played their Brighton and Brentford doublers, they benched a lot of their Arsenal players, didn't they, this week in order to do so. Quite justifiably in the end, of course, because the doublers did very well. But those who decided to play bench boost with those Arsenal players in mind did very, very well this week, and a lot of them just left them there, and there's probably 20-25 points on a lot of benches this week. So the big question will be now whether that will be repeated when a lot of people decide to bench boost in game week 29 instead, which is one of the biggest doubles coming up. So yeah, as you were in the top of the title race, but if ever we need proof of unpredictability in football, then of course Liverpool followed up their 7-0 drubbing of Manchester United by losing at at Bournemouth, bottom club Bournemouth, who were bottom at the time. So fantastic 3 points for Bournemouth. But that just shows that football is anything but predictable, isn't it? After Liverpool lost there, that Salah penalty obviously significant. We had Ollie Watkins. He's now scored 6 goals in his last 7. A lot of people thinking about bringing Watkins in this week. And we had 2 goals for Harry Kane. He's been pretty consistent all season, but he's had very, very few double figure hauls. So a 2-goal Harry Kane performance this week. I hope you were on Harry. I managed to get Kane's points this week. So certainly hotting up at the bottom as well. We've now got 7. The bottom, is it 7 or 8 or even 9 teams are covered by only 5 points. So it's an incredible relegation battle now down there. And that's certainly going to be interesting as we get to the business end of the season. But certainly the focus was on that Brighton and Brentford double game week. I had triples on both, and I only got 1 return out of 6 in the first set of matches. But all my 6 Brighton and Brentford players came good in the second match, which was good. So in the end, I did actually get a green arrow. So I was down on a red arrow before Wednesday, but that Brighton and Brentford double result certainly sorted me out, and I was up this week from 350k to about 230k, so it was a good week for me. I had 9 out of 11 returners. The only players who didn't return this week for me were Rashford and Saka, so a good week for me at last after 4 pretty wretched ones. But of course all the focus now is on what we do next. It's a blank game week 28 coming up. So it's a blank for 6 teams because of the FA Cup quarter-finals that are taking place. So teams that are either in the quarter-finals or their opponents will miss their blank game week 28 fixture. So we've got blanks now for Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Fulham, West Ham and Brighton. So certainly you could be struggling if you've got half a team this week. So a lot of people will be considering using the free hit this week, of course, if they're down on players. What I would say with a free hit is that I think if you can get probably 9, 10 players, I think if you can get 9 players, or if you can get to 8/9, I think a free hit becomes perhaps borderline, because I think it depends on the makeup of the players that you've got, of course. Because the free hit's going to be quite valuable in upcoming blank game week 32 and a couple of double game weeks to come. So I think if you can hold on to the free hit this week, that will be optimal. But I think certainly if you can get 8, definitely 9, then I'd be holding the free hit this week. So that's going to be a challenge. I think if you are bringing players in this week, you want to be targeting players who have a fixture in game week 28, obviously, but players who also have a double game week in game week 29, so you're going to get 3 fixtures out of them. Because what follows game week 28, we've got a double game week 29, and of course it's the biggest double of the season. We've got 12 teams doubling, so a lot of people will be playing their bench boost that week. So certainly you need to plan your transfers around trying to maximise your players in 29, but there is a long international break between 28 and 29, so if you can roll your transfer, or if you've got two, if you can make one and roll two into 29, that could help as well. So I think what a lot of people are considering doing this week is the unthinkable in terms of selling Erling Haaland. It's certainly in my thoughts. He doesn't play in 28. He has one fixture in 29, which is a home game against Liverpool. But a lot of people are looking at a range of strikers who play in game week 28 when Haaland doesn't, and they have 2 games in 29 when Haaland has 1. So effectively you're getting 3 games for the price of 1 for Haaland. But there is a caveat there, of course, is that you're using 2 transfers to take Haaland out and bring him back. And what can you do with those 2 transfers? So it's certainly far from clear cut, but I think probably I would suggest more than 50% of elite engaged managers seem to be considering that plan. So it's certainly going to be an interesting play. In terms of the players you could bring in there, you could perhaps Watkins, Havertz, Isak, Solanke. You've got a range of players there who could play in 28 and have a double in 29 for you. So certainly lots to consider. So we've also got captaincy will be interesting this week, because of course we've got no Haaland, we've got no Rashford. I think the main candidates are going to be the Arsenal players, of course, at home to Palace. Saka seemed a little bit tired, didn't he, in the last game, but he's bound to be popular. Otherwise Martinelli or Ødegaard. And I think Harry Kane, after his 2-goal performance, he's potentially going to be one of the leading candidates for captaincy this week. I think certainly Saka or Kane will be my main considerations. But certainly got other candidates. Ivan Toney in form, has got a good home fixture, he'll be popular. And certainly Ollie Watkins at home to Bournemouth, if you bring in Watkins in. So could be quite an open week this week for captaincy. If you want to take a bit of a punt, could be a way to be a bit different. So yeah, so we've got this blank game week coming up in 28. We've got a double game week in 29. So certainly lots to think about. In terms of my plans this week, I'm certainly considering that Haaland to Watkins move, but that will be on the very firm understanding that Haaland comes back in game week 30 for Ivan Toney. And of course that's quite a big talking point this week as well now, isn't it? Because Ivan Toney picked up a booking. That was his 9th yellow of the season, which means 1 more yellow from Ivan Toney, and he misses 2 games. So that's quite a big consideration. So hopefully hangs on for me to bring him back, for me to bring Haaland back for Toney in game week 30. That will probably might be my plan if I do that, hanging on to Watkins. But other moves I'm looking at this week, of course, when I've got 5 players who are not playing, I've got to take 1 or 2 out if I'm going to get a team, because I've only got 9 players at the moment. So could take a Brighton player out, could take Estepinen out and bring Chilwell in, that's a possibility. Could bring one of the Brighton mids out and put Maddison in. So certainly a few things to think about. But if I do either of those moves, it blocks me from getting a Bruno Fernandes in game week 29 as part of my planning. So you certainly got to be looking at game week 29 when you're considering your game week 28 plans as well. So certainly loads to think about. So I wish you good luck. So we're almost up to the 15 minutes. So if you want to follow my team a bit more closely, I write articles for Fantasy Football Geek website. There'll be one out today or tomorrow, so watch out for that. You can also follow me on Twitter at FPL Witty, and I'll be back doing these videos each game week as well. So you can follow my progress of my team as well. So hope that's been useful. I wish you a good game week 28. Just keep in mind that it's a Friday deadline this week. We've got a Friday game, so don't go and miss the deadline. Set yourself a little reminder. It's a 6:30 deadline UK time on Friday. So all the best. Good luck in game week 28. And as they say in Barnsley, I'll see thee.